Renewal of the previous bloody decrees of Emperor Charles V against the Baptists or so-called Anabaptists by Philip II, King of Spain, AD 1556. Up to this time, Emperor Charles V was alone, or at least chiefly responsible, for the shedding of the blood of the saints in the Netherlands, as also for the most cruel tyrannies which, through the instrumentality of the Inquisition, and through what followed afterwards, were inflicted upon them by fire, water, sword, and otherwise. But in this year his son, Philip II, King of Spain, following in his father's footsteps, instead of lightening the constraint of conscience, caused all the previous bloody and cruel decrees which his father had issued against the so-called heretics to be renewed and confirmed, especially the most cruel decree published on the 25th of September 1550, the contents of which we have reserved until the present time, but will now, as renewed AD 1556, adduce here. However, not with all its particulars, but only so far as it was directed principally against the Anabaptists and their doctrine. In the book in which the Prince of Orange, William I, defends himself against the false charges which his adversary sought unjustly to bring against him, printed 1569, mention of this is made in the following words: "Of the ordinances and decrees made for all times and for general observance and proclaimed everywhere from the 25th of September 1550 and renewed and confirmed by His Royal Majesty in the year 1556. We likewise forbid all lay persons and others to converse or dispute concerning the Holy Scriptures, whether openly or secretly, especially in doubtful and difficult matters, or to teach, expound, or interpret the Holy Scriptures to others, unless they, who do so, be theologians and versed in divinity and spiritual law, and approved by some noble university or others authorized thereto by the ordinary of the place. Be it well understood, however, that this is not to be regarded as relating to those who simply and exclusively converse together on the aforesaid Holy Scriptures, adducing thereto the expositions of holy and approved doctors, but to those who, in order to seduce others, or to teach and instruct them in that which is forbidden, maintain and teach contrary to the ordinances of our Mother, the Holy Church, evil and false propositions and doctrines, who are notoriously considered heretics, or to preach, defend, allege, or maintain, openly or secretly, any doctrines of the aforementioned authors, on pain that if any be found to have acted contrary to any of the above stated points, they shall be punished as seditious persons and disturbers of our realm and the common peace, to be executed as such, namely, the men with the sword and the women burned alive, that is, if they will not maintain or defend their errors. But if they persist in their errors, opinions, or heresies, they are to be executed with fire, and in every case all their property is declared confiscated and forfeited for our benefit. And as regards what we had obtained in the previous decrees and our last ordinances, that from the day they had acted contrary thereto, or had fallen into the aforesaid errors, they should be disqualified from disposing of their property, and that all alienations, gifts, cessions, sales, conveyances, transfers, testaments, or last wills, made and executed by them from said day on, should be null, invalid, and void. Again, since many from our aforesaid countries, suspected of heresy, especially of the sect of the Anabaptists, change their place of abode to infect the simple in places where their character is not known, we, in order to guard against this, will ordain and decree that none of the inhabitants of our aforesaid Netherlands, of whatever state, quality, or condition he be, shall be admitted or received into any city or village of said countries, there to live, except he brings with him a certificate from the parish priest of the place where he last resided, which certificate he shall be obliged to show and deliver into the hands of the principal officer of the city or village where he intends to live, on pain that those who do not bring such certificates shall not be admitted to live there. And we charge the officers diligently to inform themselves with regard to them, and to proceed therein, as shall be proper without our aforesaid officers, or the particular lords and their officers, being permitted to grant such persons any pass or safe conduct. Again, that all who have knowledge of any that are tainted with heresy shall be bound immediately and without delay to accuse, report, and indicate them to all spiritual judges, deputies of the bishops, and other proper persons. Likewise, if any be found to have acted contrary to these our ordinances and prohibitions, showing himself to be infected or favor of the heretics, or committing any act contrary to these our ordinances and prohibitions, especially anything tending to scandal or sedition, that those who have knowledge of them shall be bound immediately to report to our proctors, or their substitutes and commissaries, or to the officers of the place where such tainted favorers or offenders shall live, and this on the pain of arbitrary punishment. In like manner they shall be bound, if they know the place where any of such heretics heretics keep or shelter themselves, to indicate it to the officer of said place on pain of being considered, as stated before, favorers, entertainers, and adherents of heresy, and punished with the same punishment as would be inflicted upon the heretic or offender if he should be apprehended. And in order that the aforesaid judges and officers who shall apprehend said heretics, Anabaptists, and transgressors of our aforesaid ordinances and prohibitions may have no reason under the pretense that the punishment seemed too great and severe, and were only decreed to deter the delinquents, Anabaptists, and offenders, to dissemble with them their accomplices and favorers, or to punish them less than they have deserved, as has been found to have frequently been done therefore. Therefore, we will that those whom they know to have acted contrary to the ordinances, or who have kept in their possession, printed, sold, distributed, or published any heretical, scandalous books, writings, or have contravened the points already indicated, or to be stated hereafter, or some of them shall be acted, punished, and corrected with the punishment set forth above. We forbid all our judges, judiciaries, and officers, as also our vassals and subjects, temporal lords who exercise high justice, and their officers in any wise to alter, mitigate, or change the aforesaid punishments, those ordained to be inflicted with the sword, earth, or fire, but on having taken cognizance of such contravention, plainly do declare and decree the aforesaid punishments pursuant to these present ordinances, on pain of being severely punished, unless that in some particular case said judges, because of great and important considerations, should find difficulty as to the exact execution of the punishment decreed against the transgressor by our aforesaid ordinances, in which case they may nevertheless not mitigate the punishment of their own accord, but shall be bound to carry or send the criminal process, faithfully closed and sealed, to the sovereign or provincial council, under whose jurisdiction they shall belong, there to be examined and deliberated on as to whether any alteration or mitigation of the aforesaid punishment is proper or not. And if our aforesaid councillors find that in good justice, according to right and reason, in regard to which we charge their consciences, any mitigation or alteration is proper, in such a case they may advise them by writing and send it all to said judges and officers, that the latter may finish and terminate said process in accordance with it. We command them to do nothing less, and enjoin them very expressly and strictly, on pain of being arbitrarily corrected and punished, not to make use of said consultations without great and important reasons, but be governed as much as they can by the contents of these present ordinances, extracted from the Great Book of Decrees of Ghent, in which are collected all the decrees, mandates, and ordinances of Emperor Charles V and of King Philip II, and cited by William I, Prince of Orange, in his defense against his adversaries. Edition 1569.